My favorite kind of feuds in wrestling aren't actually the super dramatic kind of theatrical and cinematic stories popularized by the likes of the Bloodline. Those are fine to me, great even at their peak. But my favorite kinds of stories are when two men just believe in different things, and their insecurities, ideologies, and beliefs that they directly oppose are reflected in their opponent standing across them. And that's why they have to fight. To prove myself right, I have to beat you. For everything I believe in, for my worldview to be validated, I just have to beat you. I always found it very engaging and compelling when the conflict is rooted in something introspective and internal like that. Not just in pro wrestling but other media as well. And I'm very pleased to say that one of the biggest programs heading into SummerSlam this year is just that. This is the story behind Gunther and Damian Priest as they compete for the World Heavyweight Championship in a few weeks. Damian and Gunther have shared some similar and yet very different paths, but their minor similarities aside, they for sure do view success very differently from each other. Natural talent versus hard work is a tale that is as old as time, and that concept is also applicable here. Damian Priest, real name Luis Martinez, was born in New York City, but was raised in Puerto Rico. Sometimes afterwards, when he turned 10 years old, Priest moved back to New York City where Spanish was still his first language by that point, and he had to adapt. He always had an interest in wrestling, but before, his mother would not take him to wrestling shows in Puerto Rico. Damian credits his father taking him to WWE events held in the MSG as the initial inspiration behind him picking up wrestling. As Damian started training himself, in order to pay for gear and training fees, he worked in the nightlife party scene in Atlantic City, New Jersey. This being the toughest period of his life, and also presumably around the time when this infamous picture was taken. Damian actually spoke about this situation during his interview with Corey Graves on the After the Bell podcast. I worked at a lot of clubs, so the nightlife is so real. I've been used to it since I was 19 years old. I've been working in bars and clubs and everything in between. I worked every single position you can imagine in that industry. I did that to pay for training and pay to wrestle. I did that until about 2014. In 2014, I had my last tryout with the company, which they did not sign me at the time. They said there wasn't anything for me at the time. I remember a lot of nights not eating because I couldn't afford it, and getting letters of eviction notices, and had to deal with that and stay above water until I finally caught a break. A lot of it was my own fault. I coasted for many years in this business because being a bigger guy, you hear that you're going to make it, you're going to be fine. That was totally what I did not need to hear. That's why I got out of shape. I was my heaviest. I was close to 360 pounds. But then I lost over 100 pounds and started that transformation. I had a sweet job. When you talk about a party job, I was running one of the most popular clubs in New Jersey. So when Damian got that job at the popular club Stiletto Gentlemen's, things became a bit easier than before. But when one of the owners asked Damian to abandon wrestling and work at the club full-time, that's when Damian would straight up quit the job on the spot and go all in on wrestling. In 2015, he appeared on Ring of Honor for the first time, wrestling under his real name, but he rebranded sometime later to Punishment Martinez. After a 3-year-long grind, he won his first title on June 16, 2018, defeating Silas Young for the World Television Championship. But when his contract was up in September of that year, Damian chose not to resign and dropped the title to Jeff Cobb as he left the company. Priest finally made it to the WWE in October of 2018, starting on NXT, and even after he made it to the WWE, his career was still a serious slow burn, and he wouldn't capture his first title on NXT until August of 2020, and even then that wasn't the NXT Championship. Damian was officially called up to the main roster in 2021, and he had a very strong start, immediately being paired up with music superstar Bad Bunny. This alliance culminating in a highly praised tag match at WrestleMania 37, where Damian and Bad Bunny teamed up to take on The Miz and John Morrison. Damian continued his impressive streak by defeating the then US champion Sheamus at SummerSlam 2021 in a really good match, thus capturing his first title on the main roster. And this reign was highly underrated. He had great matches with the likes of Drew, Sheamus, Jeff Hardy, and held it for a pretty long time. During this time, Priest also started doing this strange duality character with a dark side to him that sometimes activates during the matches. It's weird, but it did culminate in him turning heel on Finn Balor and subsequently forming the Judgment Day with Edge, so I guess it did have a purpose. And it's safe to say that the formation of the Judgment Day was the single most important thing to happen to Priest. The Judgment Day saga is relatively fresh and recent, so I'm not going to recap everything. After recruiting Rhea Ripley, and on the very same date that they recruited Finn Balor, the three turned on their leader Edge, and the original version of the group came to a premature end. The shoot reason for this being Cody's torn pec injury at the time, causing a shortage of babyfaces on Raw. The interesting thing is that the underdog nature of Damian persisted throughout his entire career, even during the Judgment Day's prime. Because after Dominic Mysterio joined the group, Dominic became the outrageous cartoony heel, Finn became a major focus of the group, feuding with the likes of Edge and Seth Rollins, whereas Rhea Ripley is Rhea Ripley, almost always going viral for one thing or another. And that left Priest as the sort of odd one out of the group. A reliable hand, a very dependable worker, but ultimately not the star of the group, and he was the only Judgment Day member to not have a match at WrestleMania 39. So all of this made it all the more gratifying and inspiring when, against all odds, he won the 2023 Money in the Bank briefcase and even cashed in successfully at WrestleMania of all places. Also, a few months prior to his Money in the Bank win, Damian had a really well-received singles match with Bad Bunny at Backlash of that year. Around that time, reports also came out that the WWE was really happy with Damian's hard work and that they wanted to reward him for it, which aged very well. There is nothing that is flashy, sudden, or too epic about Priest becoming champion. He's not the youngest star, he's not the greatest in-ring talent, he did not have a meteoric rise. Rather than that, it's just a realistic and relatable journey to the top with years and years of hard work under his belt. And even in kayfabe, as part of storyline, Damian is constantly downplayed and disrespected, being called a paper champion, a placeholder, a transitional champion, etc. And his arc has just been to prove his worth, which he has already, albeit with some interferences that he himself did not ask for. All of this makes Priest a very easy wrestler to cheer for, and the fan reactions have started to reflect that as well. And this underdog relatable nature of Damian's life and career is almost completely opposite to that of the man that is the other half of our presentation today. 1. Gunther. Gunther, formerly known as Walter, was born in Vienna, Austria, and had an interest in pro wrestling ever since a young age. Some of his earliest matches date back to 2005, but more well-documented periods of Gunther's career began in 2006, which is when he went to Japan to train at Pro Wrestling 01, which is also when this iconic picture was taken, this being a reference to Gachapin, a Japanese TV character that appeared in a children's program. But that aside, the real meat of Gunther's career prior to his signing with the WWE took place in promotions such as Westside Extreme Wrestling, Progress, and Evolve, where he had great matches with wrestlers that he later went on to face again in the WWE, like Ilya Dragunov, Pete Dunne, and Matt Riddle. The promotions that Gunther was affiliated with at that time extend much beyond just what I mentioned, but this isn't a Gunther career documentary, so I'm not going to cover everything in detail. The point is that even back then, Gunther was such a complete wrestler that his match catalog was very strong even before he had done anything with the WWE. Speaking of which, when he did sign with the WWE in 2019, debuting at the NXT UK TakeOver Blackpool show, he made an immediate impact by entering a program with Pete Dunne and capturing the NXT UK Championship in his first TakeOver match at the NXT TakeOver New York, a title that he would hold for a staggering 870 days. He had some incredible matches as part of this reign too, most notably with Ilya Dragunov. Matches that were easily Match of the Year contenders. It took a while for Gunther to be called up to the main roster because he did not want to move to the States initially, but eventually he did anyways. And he's also had monumental success there, achieving heights such as longest reigning Intercontinental Champion, most time spent in the Royal Rumble, and winning the 2024 King of the Ring tournament, that victory being the very thing that earned him the championship match against Damian. It'd be silly and preposterous of me to say something outrageous like, compared to Damian, Gunther had it easy or he was lucky, but it does very much seem like Gunther is just so effortlessly good at wrestling. And the fact that he is a generational natural talent is also something that they even acknowledge on TV as part of his character. The Gunther character views everything about the WWE as beneath him. He views the wrestlers as showmen, entertainers, inferior performers of an art that he has perfected every aspect of. And among the people he looks down on is none other than Damian Priest himself, who, as we just went over in detail, has led a vastly different life and path to success compared to Gunther. A Damian Priest and Gunther match isn't exactly something that comes to mind first when you think about dream matches, but the WWE acknowledging their different beliefs and using that as the theme of the match, rather than just making it strictly about the championship, has added so much more fire to the story, and this genuinely had me counting down the days until the match. Not to mention, this has also clarified the heel-face dynamic and pretty much 99% completed Damian's transition into a babyface. Damian believes that his hard work and humble beginnings are crucial to his success, whereas Gunther just straight up laughs at the idea of this zero-to-hero rags to riches fairy tale and believes such dramatic nonsense holds no weight or meaning in front of someone like him who was already born great, born in abundance. This isn't merely just about the championship. These two men's very belief systems are on the line. I genuinely think Triple H struggled with this program. At first it seemed almost boringly obvious that Gunther is going to win, but now I think it's really up in the air. Damian is undoubtedly the good guy of the story. Sure, that doesn't guarantee him winning, but before everything else, this is still the story of him proving his worth. He could still complete his arc into becoming a sympathetic babyface by leaving it all in the ring, but just falling a bit short of beating Gunther. I'd still very much be happy with that. The result is secondary in my eyes. What matters is just how brilliant this feud and Damian's run at large have been. And personally, I'd like to see it continue. Thanks for watching, and make sure to subscribe for more.